NBA yams.
We're going live. That was a good one. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome into another edition of Trust the Process Live. R.I.P. Nipsey Hussle. We come in to him, but the Phillies opened up hot with a sweep over the Braves. March Madness is coming to a close, and much more. Let's start off with the Phillies. Perry, what was your biggest takeaway from opening weekend?
You don't want to start off with the fact that we matched and we never even planned this out?
Matched a little bit. You need the
exactly.
stripes running this way.
See, that's what people who know a lot about sports do, unlike you.
That's how we're gonna start the show. You got on a green stripe hoodie.
All right.
Okay.
So the question is, my biggest takeaway from opening weekend?
Biggest standout. Yep.
My biggest takeaway is that this team can hit the ball like we used to in 06, 07, 08. And you know what I was talking about today was, someone was telling me that we don't have the pitching. And I said, maybe you're right. Maybe we don't at the moment. We can add it, whether it's Arrieta or Kimbrel, since they're still free agents, which is
You got Arrieta.
Keuchel and Kimbrel.
I mean, Keuchel and Kimbrel, which is too weird to me that they're still free agents. Or at the deadline, you can always trade for a pitcher. With that said, when we won back in 08, we had a very similar pitching staff, right?
It was Jamie Moyer leading
What
the
we
team.
could do was we could put up runs every night, right? And after that, we became a pitching team. And then we were awesome in the regular season, but we didn't win. So I'm loving the fact that we have this lineup that I think is the most dangerous in baseball.
Okay, so one of these rare instances in life where we're going to agree. The Phillies have a dynamic offense. I said it when they went out in the offseason, and I'll say it again. Anytime that you add not one, not two, but 3 all-stars to your lineup, 3, never been done in MLB offseason history before, you build the team.
4, really?
Well, yeah, 4. But in theory, the 3 they added in.
Well, McCutchen, Segura,
But it's
JT,
all just
and Harper.
from
4.
previous year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, previous year. But and McCutchen was a former MVP. Two former MVPs in the lineup. So the point I'm making is that they have put enough guys in the lineup. And the thing is, even if they didn't add Bryce Harper, they would have been a very good offseason. But because of the fact that you went out and literally accomplished everything you possibly could to take away all the issues with the hitting and even the fielding. Look at the fielding. Look how much better and more fluid they look as a team, being able to play defense, being able to hit and get timely hits. And I think what has stood out to me, beside the fact that Andrew McCutchen has 2 home runs, is the fact that this team looks very, very dynamic. There's literally nowhere you can pitch around them.
No,
maybe the pitcher. That's about it. And if you're waiting to get to the pitcher, you're going to have a long night. I mean, right now they've got 23 runs in 3 games.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that leads the major league in runs scored per game right now. Do you project that all year? No. There's going to have games there's 2-1, 3-1 guys are going to be off. You're going to knock on wood, hopefully no long-term DLs. That happens in baseball. It's a long season. But if they're putting up runs similar to what they put up in 08, as I said before, 90 wins is light. Like, you expect almost 90 wins this year. And you expect to make a deep postseason
And looking
run.
at 08, we have a very similar 1 through 5. Well, similar 1 through 5 hitters that are just like beasts that can all win MVPs and be on the All-Star team. What we have actually that's better now is the 6, 7, 8 is better than it was
because
back
those guys last year were 1, 2, 3, 4s. Like,
Right.
when you're 6, 7, and 8 are guys that were 1 through 3, that matters. You're not asking Maikel Franco to come up here and carry the heart of your lineup. You're not asking Cesar Hernandez to get on base with a high OBP. You're asking these guys to basically just do whatever it is that you do and just don't be a liability, which is easy for them.
The problem is I said I wouldn't shade till they lost. And
You're looking terrible already.
Yeah.
The only unbeaten team left in the MLB, and Bryce Harper has brought the energy that is Citizens Bank Park right now. It is electric night in and night out. Is there a Philadelphia athlete right now that is more beloved than Bryce Harper is? Granted, it's 3 games, but is there an athlete more beloved?
Why don't you do it as an unbiased non-Philly fan?
Well, I'm going to say no, and here's why I'm going to say no. Listen, the guy went 0 for 3, did nothing, and they gave him a standing ovation. Like, I've never seen
Philly.
that. If Joel Embiid went 0 for everything, he wouldn't be getting a standing ovation.
By the way, I was at that game, and the boos were jokes. And it's ridiculous that that was reported. They were jokes.
I thought it was more so because there was Segura was over on first base, and he stared him down before he threw it.
Could be.
Bryce. Yeah, that's stupid stuff. That's people just reading too much into it. But no other athlete could go 0 for everything in any game and still get a standing ovation. Not one.
The answer to the question is Joel Embiid. But, I mean, no one's going to be as beloved as him. So.
Well, it's going to be tough to
You know what's a
tell.
better question? You tell me. Will he be more beloved than Chase Utley was?
Ooh. I think he has the win.
They're similar type vibes, right? Kind of duty type guys. They've got the flow going on. I don't know. Chase was a part of a championship team. If Bryce is able to climb that mountain, then yeah, very well.
He's got a bigger personality.
I was going to say, not only does he have a bigger personality, but he also has a bigger responsibility in the lineup.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when it came down to it, we all know that the guy who carried the offensive weight was Ryan Howard. Granted, Jimmy Rollins won an MVP. Chase Utley clearly had, MVP type talent. But Ryan Howard was the engine that made the car go. If he was on, they were a very hard team to beat. Bryce Harper has to be that guy. So his offensive load is a little bit different in expectation than Chase Utley. Chase Utley had an off night, but Ryan or Jimmy, that's fine.
Right.
If Bryce has a bad night and they lose,
guy.
he's going to get the bulk of the guilt.
So he is the guy, but I think it's fair to say that Rhys Hoskins almost helps him as much as he helps Rhys Hoskins, and that is the question, who benefits from having them right 3-4 in the lineup more?
I mean, they're going to be, both of them are going to be amongst the top hitters in the NL. It's going to be awesome. Who benefits more? Hoskins does. Harper already was doing it. He could do it with whoever was around him.
He had a great night. Yeah, great lineup in Washington.
Hoskins last year struggled because he had no talent around him. I think he'll benefit more.
And I will say, for sake of the argument, I think that Hoskins behind him is probably better than who he had behind him in Washington, and I can't remember who it was. It doesn't really matter, but
Rendon, maybe.
Right, and Rendon's a good player, but Rhys Hoskins has 40 home run potential in him, and he's on the ascension of his career. He's also slightly younger than Rendon. So you look at the talent level, when you think a 13-year contract over the course of 13 years, Rhys Hoskins and Bryce Harper being relatively close in age, that's going to benefit Rhys Hoskins as much as it benefits Bryce Harper for having that guy behind him as long as he stays healthy, who can come in and you can't pitch around him because you're going to get to the guy. And you saw it in the first game. He pitched around him, boom, grand slam. They're not going to do a bunch of that.
One other quick takeaway that has nothing to do with those two. I didn't realize how good Realmuto was throwing.
He's a monster.
I knew he could hit. I didn't know how good his arm was.
His arm is
ridiculous.
Did you see
people love Jorge Alfaro for how good his arm was, and he had a gun. This guy has a straight rocket on his arm.
Good with the bat too, right? Hoskins actually good. I don't know who got thrown out, but he was like, "Oh, you had that. No, you should go.
Yeah.
And then gunned him out. But so the Phillies disposed of the Braves in 3 games.
Way different than last year.
Right, and the Nationals are up next, which will be obviously a big game for many reasons. The question is, who is the Phillies' biggest threat in the National League?
So in the East or in the whole?
East, I'm sorry, in the East, yes.
So for me, I'm going to say the Mets, and here's why. The Mets retooled as well. The difference with the Mets is they've got this one pitcher guy, I don't know, some guy named DeGrom. I don't know, maybe you've heard of him. He happens to be like the best pitcher in the NL.
He's unreal.
And the guy had a sub-2 ERA with no run support. Sub-2 with no run support. That's Kurt Schilling, Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens-esque in their prime. Obviously Clemens, pre-steroids and all that. But the point I'm making is when you've got a guy that good, you're almost guaranteed a 1 to 2 run game every time out. Yeah. Nola's good, but he ain't that good. Yeah. And they also got Syndergaard behind him, and they retooled some other guys. They brought back some guys that are going to help build that lineup with Cano and some other guys that will add some pop to their team. I think the Mets are a quiet sleeper, a lot like the Braves were last year. We saw what the Braves were. They didn't add a lot in the offseason to me. They kind of stayed where they were. They're going to let Acuna and some of those other guys grow. But when you look at the Mets and how they retooled, they didn't retool to finish 3rd in the division. They retooled to compete, and I think they will.
I'm interested to see how our lineup does against Scherzer. Not DeGrom, but he's just the same kind of level pitcher, and we get him his next game or the game after. I think it's
whatever game Nola pitches.
That should be interesting because we didn't face like an elite pitcher yet. So with that said, even though they're 0-3 and we just wiped the floor with them, I think the Braves will be the toughest. I think that they just have the most all-around talent, like Acuna, Ozzie Albies, even like Dansby Swanson, Markakis. Like they can
they've got hitting, but they have no
Freeman.
Pitching. When Tehran is your best pitcher.
Well, Foltynewicz is, and he's been hurt.
Injured.
So I still worry that they might sign Keuchel or Kimbrel or both. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
So the hype is now mounting with the Phillies. Everyone extremely excited. And it feels like it's kind of been contagious. The Eagles first when they got Carson, and the Sixers are building something. Now the Phillies, the question is 5 years from now, who, when we look back, will we say had the most success? Phillies, Sixers, or Eagles? I leave the Flyers out because
I love that we left the Flyers out.
Thank you.
Because that's irrelevant.
Cue to Max.
I'll say the Sixers. We have the most talent.
Okay. So I'm going to say the Phillies, and here's why. If you look at 5 years, winning in the NBA is hard. And unless Steph Curry and decides to
Durant's
retire,
Durant's leaving.
That's fine. They won a title without Durant. Like, I mean, unless Steph Curry says he's done playing basketball and Klay Thompson signs somewhere else, Golden State is the toughest team to beat, and nobody except for LeBron that 1 year has shown that they can beat them in the playoffs. I think that the Sixers can win a title, but I think the Phillies have a chance to win not one but 2 World Series because of how when you got a lineup that dangerous, and it looks like they're setting themselves up to bring most of these guys back. You got a lineup that dangerous. Listen, if I'm a Phillies fan, I'm not worried as much about the NL. I'm worried about can I beat Boston.
You can argue they have the least amount of competition.
You've only got to beat Boston. Yeah. And granted, Boston looks great. Mookie Betts is a monster, and I heard they just got an extension done for Xander Bogaerts. Listen. That's fine. That's the team you're going to have to worry about beating.
I love that it's a question because each of those 3 teams are so ridiculous. Here's why I say the Sixers, aside from the fact that they might be my favorite. But baseball and football are set up in a way that you can be the best and not win. Whereas basketball, if you are the best, you're likely going to win.
Okay.
You can have a fluke in the baseball playoffs or the football playoffs. And in basketball, pretty much the best team wins. So we'll see.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think.
But you're saying 5 years, so I believe that that's Joel's prime.
That's fair. So. But the problem is Ben Simmons still going to be here in 5 years?
Yeah.
They're probably going to lose Jimmy. So now they've got Tobias, which gives them a 3-headed monster that I don't think is better than Golden State.
We'll see.
I just don't.
We'll add to it.
It's interesting. Neither of you said the team that currently holds the most recent title, Philadelphia Eagles.
That's fine.
Looking to have a good season, but that's all that we have for the main event. Now, a word from today's sponsor, Indigo Bikes. And there are Indigo Bikes all around the city for your convenience. If you want to learn more, go to www.rideindigo.com. Moving right along into rapid fire, it's going to be all March Madness. Starting off, give me your guys' recap of the Elite Eight and looking forward into the Final Four.
I'm so hurt by this because I was so sure that Duke would win this year. I was so sure. And I haven't won a pool in 10 years. It was the Derrick Rose, Mario Chalmers overtime game. So that's 10 years ago, right? And once Auburn won, I had them in the Final Four. So once they won, I became the top bracket in my pool that had Duke winning. So if Duke won, regardless of who they played, I was going to win $6,000. And then Duke blew it. Yeah. I just can't believe it. Anyway, with that said, the tournament was kind of...
I was done by Friday.
Pedestrian, let's call it. It was a little boring. A couple of games here and there, whatever. But the Elite Eight was phenomenal.
Almost every game was close. Almost every single one.
Yeah.
I rarely can sit there and watch a whole college basketball game, but I really watched most of those games. They were ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And it was like if you were ahead, your lead wasn't safe. Mm-hmm. Listen, outside of FSU, all the other games are relatively close.
No, they weren't in. The Elite Eight?
No. I'm talking about getting there. The Thursday, Friday. You're right. So it was one of those things where when you watched it, it was frustrating if you picked one of the teams that got to the end and lost. I had Tennessee. They lost to Purdue. Then Purdue doubles down. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe Purdue. No, Purdue loses. I'm just like, come on. Right. It was one of those. It was very good to watch. It's great to see that talent. Most of us don't get to know the names of most of these guys because guys don't really stay in college 4 years anymore unless they're not projected to go high enough in the draft where they should come out early. But most of the top talent tier guys you only see for 1 year, like a Zion, like an R.J. Barrett, like a Cam Reddish.
Speaking of the draft real quick, because those guys are the top guys, what do you think of the Purdue kid?
I like him. Mm-hmm. I like him. I like him. He's
solid shooter.
He's short.
He's Landry Shamet. That's who he reminds me of.
He's shorter.
Well, I'm not talking about in terms of his height. I'm talking about in terms of his ability.
Well, I'm saying it matters once you get to the league. He's short. He's like a
bull. He's 6'1", 6'2".
He's like Westbrook, but 4 inches shorter.
Yeah, he's 6'1", 6'2".
I don't know if he's as athletic.
Like a strong.
He's strong.
Yeah, I don't know though. With that said, we have 3 early second-round picks, and I would definitely.
Absolutely. You got to replace who you lose.
We're not getting with those picks. Obviously, not getting any of the Duke guys. Probably going to go in the top 5, and that begs the question.
Edwards is going to go second round though.
Right. I was.
If you were for it, just already be a first round.
Referencing Duke, was it a failure that they did not at least make the championship? You told me last week that they were not vulnerable. There's no chance that they were losing. Kind of comes as a shock. This is one of Coach K's best classes that he's brought in. Yeah. Should it be viewed as a failure?
If they had gotten blown out or never in a game, I'd say yes. Listen, that first half, they looked about as bad as they looked all year. You saw Zion turn into a straight bully the entire second half. I mean, did exactly what he wanted. People saying he's not going to be able to transcend to the NBA at the next level.
Who says that?
Listen, you'd be surprised. I think that the kid, listen, when he was able to jump up after he shot the shot, jump up and then grab the rebound over their big man, Ward, and then go back up, take it from him, and make the. I just said, you know what, this kid's athleticism is crazy.
Like Charles Barkley, but like more
athletic version of Barkley. And so you see that. I wouldn't say it's a failure. Do I think R.J. Barrett feels terrible for missing free throws? Absolutely. He's probably still sitting in the gym shooting free throws.
I saw a stat today. In the 3 games they lost that Zion played, they lost by a total of 5 points or something.
How's that a failure?
Listen to this. And in those 3 games combined, in the last minute, Zion, or the last shot, whatever, Zion was 0 for 1 and R.J. Barrett was 0 for 9.
Wow.
That goes to show you stop giving the ball to R.J. Barrett.
Yes, he's a hog at the end.
There you go. Well, share or comment, rather, and let us know. Did you have one more point?
Well, I was going to say, to me, it is a failure. It's his most talented recruiting class ever, and he couldn't put it together with, a bench. They had no bench. They had no real depth or guys that can, play a role, and I think it's a failure. I think, seriously, I know Coach K is great. I know he is. And yet, to me, it looked like they just had no offense. It was just
you know
give
what?
the ball to Zion, give the ball to RJ.
I noticed that. RJ Barrett just came down, literally dribble, drive, penetration every possession. I'm like, there's no screen and rolls, there's no pick and pops. It was a very mundane offense. And sometimes in the tournament, as I've said before, styles makes fights. The one thing Izzo does, he doesn't always get the best players, but he knows how to run a scheme. He knows how to run an offense and take away what you do well. And what he noticed is that Cassius Winston could have his way speed-wise over Trey Jones. And I like Trey Jones. I think he's going to be a decent pro, maybe better than his brother. But his speed, his ability to get to the rack whenever he wanted to, created a mismatch. Guys had to collapse, and now they got open shooters all over the place. Think about the 3 that Goins hit. He was wide open. Yeah. Why? Because of dribble penetration. That all starts at the top.
Izzo really is.
Izzo is a very good coach. Very good. And he's a very underrated coach because he's gotten farther with less talent than some of the guys, Calipari and guys are expected to
get.
This
Texas Tech coach is awesome also.
Agreed.
Well, now with, as we said, 3 of possibly the top 5 picks in the NBA draft now knocked out, who is the best player remaining in the field?
I will say he might not be the best college player, although I want to see what he does this weekend. I want to see if he really takes over. Jarrett Culver on Texas Tech. I think he reminds me a lot of Jimmy Butler, but taller. He's going to be able to bully people in the NBA, play defense, lockdown defender, make plays. I really like him.
And I'm going to go with the guy that I just mentioned, Cassius Winston. Anytime you can will your team to win against a team you're clearly not favored to beat, against the odds, against 3 first-round top 5 picks, and still will them to win, literally be the engine that got them to go. Is he the best guy in his position in the draft? No. But heart matters, and how many times have we seen guys step up and make a name for themselves in the tournament? And he's a guy who's clearly put a stamp on himself at the next level. Teams are going to give him a look.
Does he remind you guys of anyone that used to play at Michigan State?
I was going to say Mateen Cleaves.
Mateen Cleaves. Yo, he's a little chubby, baby fat. I
was thinking more like Johnny Flynn at Syracuse.
You nailed it. You knew who he was talking about. But a guy who I really like, actually, shout out to Friend Central is DeAndre Hunter on Virginia. Virginia churns out NBA products. Hunter is going to be the next iteration of guys that he churns out. But speaking of Tony Bennett, just last year, they had one of the most embarrassing losses of all time. Now they have a chance to go to the final. If they do make it to the final game, should all be forgiven for Tony Bennett.
Yeah.
I'm going to say even if they don't make it to, just because when's the last time they went to the Final Four?
Right.
So
it's really impressive to take that
he turned it around.
And then turn it around.
And listen, I'm surprised he didn't get fired, to be honest with you, because a lot of coaches, when you lose like that, that's a black eye. It never happened before. You were the first. That's not something you want to be the first at. And so for him to come back with the team, get those guys motivated, and I think the biggest thing was getting over that when they struggled in that first half against Gardner Webb.
Right. It was
I'm sure he was sitting there like, oh my God, I cannot lose 2 in a row. I'm probably out of work. But they came back, they won, and they've gotten into what they do well, playing that lockdown, suffocating defense, forcing guys to mistakes, slowing down the tempo, and playing to their strengths. And that, for him, is commendable. I think even if they just get to the Final Four, they win this weekend, at least one game, they don't get to the championship, they don't win it, that's okay. I think
should be an interesting game. You got the run and gun Auburn, like 3-pointers, and the slow it down defense of Virginia.
And here's the kicker. You got two coaches who, prior to this year, never really accomplished anything. I mean, Bruce Pearl was a decent coach, but never really got to that.
He's gone to the Final Four, I think.
Right, but I'm saying in terms of actually at Auburn, he hasn't done much outside of this year. This is the first time they've ever got there. Right.
Speaking of coach, though, like these 4 coaches are all really good. Coaches get you through the tournament.
Agreed.
It's
not like NBA where talent wins and anybody could coach you.
Before we go to upon further review, just real quick, who's going to be the champion now?
I'll go Michigan State.
Michigan State?
I'm going to take a flyer. I'm going to go Texas Tech.
I'm going to go Texas Tech as well. I think Culver's
Texas Tech.
Real deal. Going to be able to lead his team, but now we're going to kick it
They're a
over
sleeper.
to producer Sean and see what the folks have to say in Facebook land. Sean.
Thanks, Jake. Before we get into upon further review, I just wanted to point out Max Coolish actually called last week that Perry would come in here and talk some game about how he lost money over the Duke Blue Devils. That was an absolute dart. Good stuff, Max Coolish. For upon further review today, executive producer Zach James from home asks, who is the best chance to be the team's MVP for the Phillies? Is it Rhys Hoskins, Mr. Bryce Harper, or Mr. Aaron Nola?
Well, it wouldn't be
Gotta
Nola.
say Harper, right? I mean,
it's got to be a guy that plays every day.
He's the one who's billed to kind of come in, be the show, and bring the guys in. Hoskins has a chance too, but I just think Bryce is the better
I will say,
player.
because the question was MVP, I'll say Nola because we can hit even without one of those guys, and Nola's by far the best pitcher, by far.
Well, here's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to go JT Real Muto. I'm going to take a dark horse, and here's why. I think he's going to catch at least 2 no-hitters this year.
Is that his
That's
doing?
him catching. It's him catching, calling a game where he gets 2 no-hitters this year. And by the way, he's going to hit 330
Who's going to throw
home
him?
runs.
Both Nola? Pavetta?
I think Pavetta's got a shot to throw one. I like Pavetta's stuff. I really do. I do. I like his stuff.
What else, Sean?
One more for me, guys. Birds traded for Jordan Howard this week. Do you think that this is a trade that'll put them over the top? Is he an improvement over Jay Ajayi, who underperformed in Philadelphia?
First, because I have some thoughts on this.
Puts him over the top. Stop. Look, and I said this before. Listen, Jordan Howard is a piece. I don't think, based on his skill set, he's better than Jay Ajayi. I think he's actually a step down, and here's why. He's a one-dimensional running back. He's a bruiser back, so he reminds you a little bit of a younger version of LeGarrette Blount. Not good hands out of the backfield. Better than last year, but not a guy where you can have him in on 3 downs. He's not a 3-down back. They're still going to need a scat back. The other piece is the Eagles' issues didn't stop at just running back. That helped fix their offense. But the bigger thing is they've got holes at other spots on their team that they still have to address in the draft.
The question's Howard, though.
Does it put him over top? No, it doesn't. It's a piece that helps.
I would tell you this right now. He's very clearly going to win the rushing title. Easily. April Fools. I'm just messing around. All right. Listen. So someone had to do it.
Good one.
We rarely fully agree. I fully agree with you. When this trade happened, people were texting me like, "Oh my God, it's amazing we got Jordan Howard." Listen, we traded a 6th-rounder for him. I'm all for the trade. That's great.
Needed something.
With that said, his trajectory is going
Not
like
good.
this, right? Like he was great as a rookie. He's slowing down. He already looks like he's 30 years old. He looks slow, right?
Because he's packing on the pounds.
Yes. Yeah. So I like him as a short yardage back, 10 carries a game, 3rd and short, 4th and short, 1st down to set the tone, whatever. But he can't catch the ball to the backfield. And he's not quick to the sideline. So am I that excited about it? No. And my fear is that they'll think that this locks up the running back situation and not get one in the 2nd round. And that's really what I want.
Well, just real quick, Eagles were I was doing some research on this, one of the worst short yardage success conversion teams in terms of end short, so that's 2-3 yards. I think it was Adams who's 0 of 7 on chances.
Well, there you go.
Secondly, since Jordan Howard has came into the league, he's the 3rd most rushing yards in the league. I know he's been on a downward trajectory, but he also had Tariq Cohen, who had a phenomenal year, kind of eat away from his touches. He may not be that superstar guy you're looking for, but I think that he is a huge upgrade over the power backs that they were looking at last year, and that's what matters.
I will say to that argument, you know what? Okay, that's a fair point that you made. He had the 3rd most rushing yards. His first year in the league as a rookie, he played on a team that won 3 games with a crap quarterback, and nobody knew who he was. It's easy when you come under the radar. You're not highly touted. They're not going to put 8 in the box. The next 2 years, when they gave him a quarterback who actually was filling his way out, they're going to throw the ball a little bit more, especially under a Matt Nagy offense. Now he comes to a Doug Peterson offense, very similar to Matt Nagy, in terms of wanting to be able to move the pocket a little bit, wanting to use guys that have good hands out of the backfield. That doesn't speak to his strength. That's why they want Tariq Cohen over him, because Tariq Cohen does all the things they need him to do. And the bigger thing is, how are you going to do in pass protection when you have to sit back and block for Carson Wentz? We already know that there's issues
apparently
with
is
the
a really
O-line.
good pass blocker.
And so that's where they're going to use him a lot.
Right.
But which takes away his ability to be productive if he's sitting back there blocking the whole time. So if that's the case, if that's what they brought him in for, I mean, for a 6th-round pick, listen, you got him for next to nothing. It doesn't matter. But in terms of filling the gaps, I still think they need to go after somebody
Second
super aggressive
round,
that's
they
going to
need
help
to
them.
get a running back.
Agreed.
I
like Benny Snell. There it is.
look at that.
Benny
He's
Snell.
bigger. I like him. Like killed Penn State in the bowl game. I think they need a faster guy. But we'll see.
All right, well, that is all that we have for Upon Further Review. Thank you, everyone who sent in your questions. But moving right along to tap outs. Guys, Perry, you want to start first?
I'll start. I'll make it short and quick because I'm so aggravated. As you can probably see, and I probably shouldn't be on camera because it's so ugly, I had a pimple here like last month, right in my middle of my forehead. Seriously. And ever since I popped it, I have this like pink circle, and I'm 35. I thought this was done when I was younger. I don't understand it. Tap out. I'm just
Toothpaste and cocoa butter. A little toothpaste to dry it out, put a little cocoa butter on it. Give it 2 days, you'll be fine.
all right.
I mean, hey, listen, I don't know. Hey, I'm gonna talk about something. It's warm outside, April Fools, right? So everybody was all excited this weekend. We got great weather. We're feeling, man, spring's really here. Let's go put those winter coats away. And then you walk outside this morning like, oh, I gotta go turn the heat back on. Like, it is not a game. Like, hey, listen, spring, I don't know where you are, but can you please stop playing? Like, we got the joke. All right, come on now so we can get warm outside. Hold off on the rain. We don't need tons of that, but just give us some nice, decent weather so I can, start to pull jackets out instead of coats. That'd be it. That's all I got.
All I have to say is next Monday, we'll be at SHEMA. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you're going to want to tune in.
Absolutely.
It's going to be some very great content doing a Game of Thrones show. So that'll be a lot of fun, but that is all that we have here for today. Thank you for tuning in, as always, here at My New Philly, where something is always new and everything's always Philly, baby.
The Night King is going to be the last one left standing.
If you have not watched Game of Thrones and you're on my friends list, unfriend yourself. Thanks.
No music on the way out?
Yeah. Can I get a little Nipsey?
Yeah.
Did we get any Nipsey on the way out? No Nipsey?
That's all I'm saying.